Hello everyone and welcome to Underwater Adventures with Alex Mirabal. Today we will be talking about a wreck site inside a cave. It sounds weird, right? It is. So please stay with us until the end of the video so you will find out about this interesting wreck.
Hey everyone! If you want to watch the video in other languages, you simply click on Settings, go to Subtitles, select the subtitles in the original language, then go back to Subtitles, activate the Translate automatically, and scroll down and select your preferred language. In this case, we chose Spanish, obviously. Thank you so much all, and let's get on with the video.
Maybe all of you have seen in movies, I have seen it in movies, sometimes shipwrecks or remains of shipwrecks inside caves. It is very pretty from the movie point of view, but it's a situation that it is not normal. It doesn't happen often. Why? Because imagine how difficult it would be for a ship to go down and then go inside a cave. That normally doesn't happen. In my entire career, I have only seen one wreck, which has part of the wreck completely inside a cave, and I want to share it with you. This is the wreck known as the Passa Pau wreck or the San Francisco wreck, because we don't know the name of the ship. We never found the name of the ship. So it took the name of Passa Pau, which is a point in the east coast of the island of Santiago in Cape Verde, and is nearby a small harbor which is called San Francisco. So we either call it the Passa Pau wreck or the San Francisco wreck. It was late in the season of 1999 when one of my Cape Verdean divers in the team mentioned that when he was spearfishing some years ago, he went through a gully in the coast of Santiago in Passa Pau, and he had seen something that he believes were cannons. So we finished working in 1999 in the Princess Luisa and the Shimmerman, and we took some time to go and check on the place that this diver have seen the wreck. Funny enough, it was against the coast. I mean, the gullies where the wreck lays are against the coast, so you could, as he did, you could dive from the coast. He was with his friends spearfishing. They were jumping from the coast, not need of a boat. So it is very close to the shore, and these gullies are reasonably deep for being so close to the shore because the sea conditions there are very rough. So these gullies, we call it surge gullies because they are excavated by the strength of the waves. And this ship unfortunately ended up against the coast, and the entire ship went down in one gully. What happened is that this gully has by the sides, in two of the walls of the gully, it has big caves, and the water from the waves push so strongly to inside the caves that even large and heavy objects like cannons were moved in that direction and then deposited in the seabed inside, well inside with the cave of the east and the cave of the north. It was an incredible feeling working under a roof, because normally you find wrecks in reefs or open waters, like 99.9% of the times wrecks are in open waters. So you in a situation of an emergency, or if you need another tool and it's not too deep, so you can go up to the surface, talk to your crew or the boatman to give you something. Well, this one had the added complication or the added challenge that we have to prepare the dive as if would be a speleological dive, so inside caves, like exploration of caves. So lines, when we make the survey of the site and we make the plan of the site, we had to install ropes and lines that will help us to go in and out the cave. Remember that these heavy cannons of 700, 800 kilos each were pushed inside the cave, so you can calculate how strong the force of the waves is in that place and what would do to a diver which is not prepared to hold that strength of the waves. So it was, in general, it was a very interesting wreck. Obviously, the anecdotic part is that part of the wreck is inside two caves. But the wreck in itself, it gave us a very interesting puzzle in the research because first, we didn't know of any ship from around 1650. You will see that we managed to know that it was sunk around 1650, but we didn't know about any wreck of that date sunk in that part of the island. But on top of it, when you are, as I have mentioned in other videos, when you are facing a discovery of a wreck site that you have no archival information, every little find is super important for you to make up your mind of what type of wreck you are working on. The peculiarity of this wreck is that each time that we made a discovery within the wreck site, it makes it more complicated to us. You normally find objects, artifacts on the wreck sites that will slowly but surely indicate at least the country of origin, where the ship was built or which kind of artifact has on board. They were built in Spain or in Portugal, or you can say Iberian because they were from the Iberian Peninsula. It's sometimes a bit difficult to tell apart Portuguese from Spanish ships of the time, but in this case everything was really puzzling. The wreck has 18 cannons, from which 2 look strange. They were not the normal cannons that we were used to find. So we recovered these 2 cannons, which were also sensibly smaller than the other ones. We recovered these 2 cannons, took them into the lab, and what a surprise when the conservator, our conservator Peter, he cleaned up the cannons, give them conservation, and found out that the cannons were a type. First, they were Dutch. They were built in the Netherlands, but they were of the type of a cannon that had, to the best of my knowledge at the time, this is 1999, so far it had been found only in one other wreck in Australia, the Batavia, and they are of the type of composite guns. They are called composite guns because normally the cannons are melted in a mold or in a tube, and they are solid, being made of iron or being made of bronze. But in this case, they are composite guns because they are put together. The barrel where the ball goes in and out, the barrel was made of iron, the outside of the cannon was made of copper, and between the barrel and the outside of the cannon, they have put this lead, it's called duels. I think in Spanish it's duelas, I think in English it's duels, but there are these thin rings made of lead that will put the barrel in the center and have the outside of the cannon properly attached. That was totally new to us, having it in our hands. I mean, being privileged to watch these kind of cannons in one of the wrecks discovered by us. This obviously made us immediately think, okay, it must be a Dutch ship, because Dutch, even if they were a great empire at the time of let's call it the age of the discoveries, which is most of people refer to that time to that, and they built their own artillery. It was not that common that they will export cannons. Sweden did. They were the biggest cannons producers in Europe, and they sold to every country. But the Dutch mainly consumed their own artillery, so they made the cannons and they used it in the ships. So we were thinking, okay, this should be a Dutch wreck. Records in the archives about Dutch ships and lost Dutch ships are quite accurate and they are quite complete. So we were expecting that our historians would find something in the archives, because now we were thinking, okay, this is Dutch, so let's go to the Dutch archives archives and let's find out which ship could be. Well, they couldn't. There was no mention of a Dutch ship lost in that area, in that island, in that time. So we kept on excavating the wreck. The next discovery was the usual silver coins. They were in an amount of approximately 3,500. And silver coins are very useful, or coins in general are very useful to give you an idea of, again, the provenance of the wreck and the date. But we found out that these coins were all minted in Mexico, so they were made in Mexico. Silver coins, okay, silver coins, reales at the time, it's 8 reales, 4 reales, 2 reales, they were kind of a very widely distributed currency. It's like today dollars or euro. Being such a widespread currency, it was common to find Spanish reales in ships from many nationalities. So actually that wouldn't help us a lot in trying to define from where the ship was coming from, because it's like if today you find a shipwreck, it has dollars or euro, it not necessarily is from the United States or from Europe. So it was good to know, but it didn't really add to the puzzle. But actually add to the puzzle that we have coins, we have Dutch cannons, and you have Mexican silver coins.
It added to the confusion rather than to the clarification.
Exactly. Instead of making our life easier, it became a little bit more complicated. Then we observed in the site were plenty of fragments and even complete olive jars, which were certainly of Iberian manufacture. So they came either from Portugal or from Spain, putting the thing a little bit more worldwide context to one single ship. Remember, we are talking about around 1650. It's the time of the highest peak of expansion of the European powers. They were going all around the world. By that time, they made visits to Africa for slaves. So all these make sometimes slavery was always, even if there are different perceptions, slavery was always looked bad for governments and for the kings. So the ships that engaged in slavery, they were kind of illegal. They would not be very visible. They would not declare in their manifest that they were going to buy or to take slaves. So we start handling the possibility that this ship has been putting things from different countries because they were in some sort of illegal trade. One of the things that came to reinforce that is that we also found within the artifacts of the ship, we also found a type of gold chains. There's these little gold chains which have the links of the chain, they are almost open. So you can take the link out and pay with this little link of gold. It's not a chain to wear, it was not jewelry, it was a way to take gold with you in a certain weight and a certain size that you can pay services or goods with that. We also found a sort of gold strips. There were strips like this in the surface that will remember. You have a baby. What happened? What happened, baby? Are you okay? These little like small pyramids that will resemble like a chocolate bar. This chocolate bar that you break because it has these squares. Well, similar to that, smaller obviously, similar to that, but in gold. Also with the intention of breaking these little truncated pyramids and pay with them for things and services. So again, this kind of unorthodox currency, so currency that was not used every day, it's not like the regular coins, also give us the suspicion that the crew of that ship may have been dealing with shady people in the coast of Africa, Cape Verde. There was a very nice place at that time to hide because it was not populated as today. It was not that heavily populated. It was few settlements. And that started adding up for us this sense that could have been a ship involved in slave trade. Then we found what it was probably the most important find in the wreck, and also very peculiar, which is an astrolabe. Astrolabes, I would make a video on astrolabes because it's a very important navigation instrument. There are very few marine astrolabes that have survived the time. I think nowadays there are only 116. So anything that is in the number of 116 in the world is rare, scarce, and each one that you find, it will most probably give you new information. What happened with this astrolabe would make it so different to other artifacts found before. So astrolabes were made in bronze or copper, and copper alloy with bronze. They were utilitarian instruments. Today they have become precious because of the few that have survived, but they were utilitarian instruments. They were used for navigation. And this one, suddenly we found the only astrolabe that has been found in the world coated with silver. This is the first time so far and the only time that I have seen an astrolabe coated in silver, which made it first unique, and second that the information that you could retrieve from the astrolabe, it was all there because it was much protected than an astrolabe that would not have coating. So since the moment we found it, we saw that it was made in 1645, and the family or the person who, the maestro who made the astrolabe was Nicolau Rufo, because it was signed Nicolau Rufo. Rufo family, it was a very well-known Portuguese family which made astrolabes for the Portuguese fleets, and also to export to other countries. But there we go again. Now we have a Portuguese astrolabe in a ship that has Dutch cannons and have Mexican coins and Iberian pottery. And it's inside the cave. So one of the interesting things now that I mentioned that is inside the cave is that some of the cannons, like 6 or 7 cannons that were inside the cave of the north, these cannons fell into a hole, almost all muscle down, with the mouth down in the hole, meaning that they were like when you put pencils or pens in a glass, that you put them and they stay like this, in this way. What happened is that with the strength of the waves, these cannons were, for who knows how many years, they were rolling and drilling the hole that they originally went in. It became bigger and wider and deeper. So obviously that made a collector of artifacts. We had to excavate under those cannons very carefully because many of the lighter artifacts that were going around in the wreck ended up in that hole, and obviously there is no strength of any wave that could take them out. So there under the cannons we found plenty of these artifacts. The wreck had a mixture of luxury items and strange objects. Luxury items because, for instance, you find in that wreck these pewter plates, which are a pewter is alloy between lead and tin. So it looks like silver, but it's like cheap silver. But a good pewter object will bring the stamp of the maker and the quality of the material. Can you imagine eating in a plate made of lead? That was not very healthy. But also the difference between the makers of these objects would make them more luxurious or more mundane or more for the common use. What happened is that we were finding pewter plates and copper trays in these wrecks that were very high-end. They were very good at the time, and actually they were in very good conservation condition because they degrade very little. So then again, the makers of the pewters were British. So it adds to this puzzle of we not really being able to put the finger on the name or the provenance of the wreck. Other of the interesting finds was pieces of cloth. Cloth, it doesn't really last long because it's organic and it will degrade very quickly. Inside the cave, they were somehow protected from direct sunlight. That is one of the reasons I believe that some of the clothes and part of dresses were still conserved in the moment that we found them. And this piece of cloth had silver and gold ornaments on them. They stitched to them, so meaning that they were also of a noble person or a high-end clothing. So this mixture of luxury objects in a ship that has no records on the archive is intriguing, because the more important the people were on board, or the more important or more expensive the ship was, the more probabilities is that the ship would be registered in the harbor where it left and with the passengers left, and you will find trace of that. We did find like 7 candidates to be that wreck. Through our historians, they found information that could match at least on 7 ships. Problem is that when we analyzed these 7 ships in depth, none of them was actually satisfying enough to say, okay, this one ticks all the marks, because in every of those ships there was something that was off, something was not matching with the finds that you are making in the seabed. The excavation in that wreck, needless to say, that was super hard, because the strength of the waves and the closeness to the shore makes it very difficult to put our expedition ship nearby. But it was first challenging, but second was very nice, because very few wrecks have such a landscape around. Big caves and gullies that were these channels that are made on the seabed by nature, by the waves moving rocks and sand up and down, excavate a sort of channels that we call search channels. These gullies, they were as deep as 12 meters. So you have on top of the galley, on top of this corridor, you have the waves breaking in the rocks, and then you are 12 meters down with crystal clean waters and a cave in this side, fish going in and out through the cave. A beautiful sight for someone who is used to excavate wrecks that become, after long periods, become boring. One of the things that you wouldn't expect in Cape Verde is that we found this wreck quite late in the season, meaning like about September 1999, end of September, and we started working till November, more or less, and the water got cold. Cold for Cape Verde standards. It's not the cold that most of you would know from northern countries or the very southern latitudes. Okay, this is pretty much tropical, but still the water of the Atlantic can get cool, 18, 16, 17 degrees, that after hours of immersion it really makes you feel cold. So we finished the first season of excavation of this wreck at the end of 1999, and we resumed in April, May of 2000, and we used the entire year of 2000 to excavate this super interesting wreck. My hope was during this excavation that we will come across some objects or some part of the ship or elements from the ship that will help us in discovering the identity of the ship that went down. But unfortunately, it was not like that. It gave us 2 of the most beautiful pieces you can find in a wreck, which were the composite guns and a unique astrolabe coated in silver. Both quite remarkable finds, and they should have been good enough to give us the name of the ship, but unfortunately it wasn't. In maritime archaeology, you always have to have this thing in your mind. Things are not as you wish them to be. They will always have a little surprise for you. Well, I'm glad that you came to the end of the video. Hope you like it. And this, I will leave in the description, I will leave a link in which you can see in one of my publications about this wreck, obviously with much more detail of what I said now. And if you are interested, and you will see marvelous photos and description of these artifacts and drawings and everything. So if you have also any question, you want me to elaborate more in any of the artifacts or the aspects of this video, please let me know in the comments. We will be checking. We will eventually prepare a video answering the questions of you. When we have enough questions to make a video, we will do it. I hope it will be very soon. And if you like it, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and let's keep in touch and keep on diving.